Hi everybody, Sophia here from the Prenatal Snug. And did you know that there's such a thing as National Sense of Smell Day? Well, there is. And so I thought, who would you love to hear more from today? And I have found for you, what a lovely discovery this is, Lindsay from the Aromatherapy for Childbirth. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, lovely to be here, especially on today.
Absolutely. And I'm super excited because I love aromatherapy. I love all things kind of sensual and just the most amazing scents and how much they have the ability to change how you feel, to uplift you, to calm you, to soothe you. I'm going to be like your biggest fan from now on. So how did you get into aromatherapy? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I was in my 20s, I used to live in Snowdonia, and I had a garden, and I had kids up there, and I was one of the hippies in the hills, and I loved using natural remedies on the kids, and we used to give them these remedies, and they're still alive now. And I wanted really, I think at that point, to be a herbalist, but I didn't have enough time or money at that point to be able to train up to be a herbalist. And so I was thinking, well, what could I do? And aromatherapy, I really loved the sense of smell. I was a trained artist as well, and so I loved the aesthetics of it. And I thought, well, maybe I could do this. And so I trained from home and went to Manchester, which seemed like the big smoke to me at the time, to learn how to massage, and started really falling in love with the essential oils, because it is herbalism. You're working with really potent sort of all this stuff in this bottle comes from a plant, and it's really wonderful and really strong, and I really love the aesthetics of it as well as the therapeutics of it. So that's the way I got into it, and I think the kids got a bit safer at that point as well.
It's a lovely thing when you can find so many ways just to bring aromatherapy into day-to-day life. My stepdaughter, who is now 10 years old, nearly 11, she went through this phase of, oh, Sophia, there's monsters under the bed. And so, of course, we made her a monster spray, which was water with a few drops of lavender in there.
Yeah.
And at night time, I would go in when we tucked her in to sleep, and I'd say, okay, where do you think the monsters might be tonight? By the wardrobe. How many squirts? 3 squirts. So I'd go to the wardrobe and do 3 sprays. Where else is the monster? Under the bed. Okay, coming to get you, monster.
Yes.
Oh,
that's really lovely. Yeah, my daughter, one of my daughters couldn't sleep very easily, and she used to come downstairs, go, Mum, I can't sleep, and I'd put lavender on her wrists or on a tissue or something for her. And in the end, when she got a bit older, she'd just come down and help herself because it was so useful for her.
It's such a fab thing. It's a lovely thing to have. And then we'd always just do a spray at the end of, oh, let's make sure that you just sleep tight and have the nicest dreams. So we just do one big circular spray like a magic trick, and then leave it there. So yeah, it's an amazing thing when you can use it. And then for childbirth itself, you've obviously found amazing ways to introduce aromatherapy into that with magical uses. So tell us a little bit about wherever you would like to start. You're the expert.
Okay, well, I think I'd really like to start off how I got into using aromatherapy for childbirth, because when I had my kids, I had my first daughter in Brighton, and that was many years ago, and everyone was having to have their babies in hospitals at that point. So home birth wasn't a thing, and you were really radical, and you want a safe baby, don't you? You want a safe baby, don't you? At that point, it was quite a battle, but there was a lot of there was, it was in Brighton. There were a lot of alternative types, and I happened to manage to go to an antenatal class run by a woman called Vicky Juna, who wrote the Home Birth Handbook, and this was it was a really thin little book, but it was my Bible, and she was amazing. And I had a home birth in a bedsit in Brighton there, and then moved up to North Wales, and I had my 3 other daughters up in North Wales, and all my friends up north, and I'd been previously living in Liverpool. They had no education and no information about how to go about having natural childbirth. And so I brought all my information up to them, and I found that a lot of people found it really interesting. So one of these people was my friend who lived next door, which was about a mile up the road because we lived in Snowdonia, and I became really a doula for her, even though doula wasn't a thing then. We'd never heard of the word doula, and popped up there during her first baby's birth, and brought all lovely things with me. And I don't think I was an aromatherapist then, but we were using sort of herbal things and everything. And she, at the end of her first birth, said to me, "Oh, Linz, I really want to be a midwife." And I said to her, "Oh yeah, Jude, we all wanted to be midwives, but you know, you move out of that stage once you've had the baby and you've got your kids and you're up and running with them." But she did become a midwife, and then years later, she was saying to me, when I was an aromatherapist, "Why don't we put our two skills together?" And I was going, "Oh no, I'm too busy. I've got lots on. I can't do it." And she just kept badgering at me, and in the end, I said, "Yeah, okay, let's do a 1-day course." And so we sat down and we wrote a course together. And she was working in the Barkentine Birth Centre by then, and we took that course to the Barkentine Birth Centre, and it was really well received. And so then we went back again, and then other places in the NHS started wanting us, and we started doing open study days where we then, because we thought, oh yeah, antenatal teachers and doulas and other birth workers, hypnobirthers would be interested in it, and we sort of started rolling from there. And what we were doing in the course, we're keeping it really simple, because it was, at that point, it was a 1-day study day. And we didn't want to bring in too many essential oils and not work deeply into those essential oils. So we just decided to do 5, but then it sort of sneaked up to 6 because mint became peppermint and spearmint, because we sort of argued quite a bit which one to do, and then we thought, oh, we'll just use both of them. And so we're just using 6 essential oils, but because of the way essential oils are made, they're chemically really complex, and so they do loads of different things. And so with those 6 essential oils, we've got like a really big span of conditions that you might need to help during childbirth with a very few number of essential oils. And what we wanted to do was not have proprietary blends that people had for specific things. So if your labour's slowed down, we didn't have a particular blend that was already made up that people used. We wanted to think about each labour as an individual labour with an individual person and an individual situation, and work with the really good aspects of the essentials that work with the emotions. And so one person that's got a slow labour might need Clary Sage, or another person that's got a slow labour might need Mandarin, just to sort of chill them out a little bit, you know. So it was a really good decision, because it just feels like we have a huge amount of things that we can do with them. And we work with very, very simple methods as well. We use simple methods that can be brought to the birthing room. So we're not trying to get a woman on a couch when she's in labour, or take her to all of the aromatherapy methods that are quite sort of full on. You've got to be in a sort of specific space. We're making the methods sort of easy, so that either birth workers or mum herself can use those methods just in a twinkling of an eye, you know, so that they've got the kit there and think, oh yeah, really need a little bit of support here. So that's the way that we're using it.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, I think, well, I'm definitely a convert to all of this. Obviously, you are. We are singing from the same
Yes, yeah.
For anybody who's a little bit kind of skeptical, oh, you know, I mean, I've got a couple of little bottles here as well. They're just little bottles, and what kind of a difference can that make? But just, can you explain to us a little bit about why the sense of smell and the scent is such a powerful thing?
Okay, so when you smell something, I mean, it's a really, really old sense. isn't it? The sense of smell. And we don't tend to use it quite so much nowadays, but it's still there. And your nose is right in the middle of your head. So it's really important place. It's like not on your toe, because if it was on your toe, it would take a while for those signals that you've smelt something to go up your spine and then into your brain. But actually where you smell is in the olfactory region, which is just at the back of your nose in your nasal cavity. And that's almost in the brain. It's incredible. And those olfactory nerves will pick up the sense of smell and take it to the limbic system in your brain. Now, the limbic system is sort of deep in your brain. It's just behind your nose. And it works with memory. It works with emotions. And when you smell something, those nerve impulses go directly into your brain, and it helps balance biochemicals and hormones, which then get sent out, those signals of saying, okay, you're scared, your adrenals are up, you're producing lots of adrenaline, you want to run away, you don't want to be in birth here. What it can do is just like frankincense can really help support calming those adrenals and help you feel much more centered, so that you can work with those sort of highly emotive areas. And especially if it's to do with memory, if you think of something like, if you think of lavender, and if you think of those memories of lavender that you've got, we do this in our classes, we get everyone to think about if they've got any memories of lavender. And have you got one, Sophia? Can you remember one from a distance?
We made up little lavender bags as wedding favours. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's got that lovely memory of your wedding. Well, yeah, we get that, and we get people saying, oh yes, in childhood we used to rub our hands over my grandmother's lavender bushes as we went up to see them, or grandmother used to put them in grandmother's drawers. That's another one we had, where the kids remember about the grandmother's drawers and how they used to keep moths away with lavender. So it takes you back to those safe spaces, those safe times, sometimes, lavender. And so it's really important that you have that awareness when you're using it in labour, that it makes you feel differently. And I think that's the supreme aspect of aromatherapy, is that if you're wobbling a bit, if you're a bit off centre, you can support yourself to come back on centre with these particular essential oils. And it works really nicely with hypnobirthing as well. Obviously, you're using breathing in hypnobirthing, and even if you're not using hypnobirthing, that whole steady breath during labour really supports your body. And to have an aroma that comes in and influencing the way that you feel is quite extraordinary. Also, recently there's been research that it's not only coming in via a nerve signal into your mind, that actually those essential oils are absorbed directly into your brain as well, which is incredible. They're using essential oils as carriers for medicine to get into the brain for brain tumours now. Wow. Which is extraordinary, because when I first trained, we thought it didn't get in there, and there's a blood-brain barrier, isn't there? So normally it's really hard to get any medication into the brain, but that actual thought of those essential oil molecules easily going into your mind is just incredible. And the other way that it goes in through your lungs. So as you breathe in those molecules, because they're very, very tiny, because they've been made by distillation, they'll go into your lungs. And as you have internal respiration, they get absorbed into your blood system. So even just breathing essential oils brings them directly, quickly into your body, and safely as well into your body. And so you've got these molecules going around your circulatory system, and they can get dropped off anywhere you need them in your body, because they're in your circulatory system. Yeah. And you can also get them absorbed through the skin And so because they've got such tiny molecular structure, they get absorbed through the skin and then go through your connective tissue, get into those tiny capillaries that are close to the edge of your skin, and then again get into the circulatory system and get moved around your body that way.
And it's just incredible, isn't it? When you think of the power of something as small as that, and how easy it might be for some people just to kind of overlook it and think, oh, never mind. But actually, a lot of the time in day-to-day life, I mean, I'm really tuned into smells anyway. I just have to walk past the bin, and I know I've walked past a bin. I can tell a smoker at 20 paces. I'm just
absolutely,
I can smell all these different things. I'm really tuned into it. And I think for anybody watching right now, you know, thinking of the smell of your husband or your partner when you give them a hug, and if you can smell their aftershave or their body wash or their soap, whatever they're using. And one of the things I encouraged a lot during COVID, if women couldn't have their birth partners with them, was take a t-shirt that they've worn and just bury your face into that.
That's really lovely idea, yes.
And so the power of scent in that way to make a difference is huge. And I had open heart surgery 4 years ago for a heart defect that we knew nothing about. Anyway, it was a 3.5 centimeter hole in my heart, so slightly bigger than this, but right through the top 2 chambers. But I used lots of aromatherapy at that point. I was using the kind of lemon and tea tree and lavender to wipe down the sides of the bed, and I had frankincense and ylang ylang and geranium and just lots of things that smelt amazing. And all of the nurses who were on night shift were coming into my room kind of 2 o'clock in the morning, sitting down. Would you like some water, Sophia? Yes, please. I'm like, I was kind of asleep. And they're going, oh, it just smells so lovely in here.
I know.
What have you done?
Good, isn't it?
And I think so nice.
I think that's really good for women that are giving birth in hospital. The other aspect of aromatherapy is that it's not just influencing the person that's using it, so the woman giving birth, it's also influencing all the others in the room. So, I mean, for a start, you've got to be careful that you do have consent from the other people, because some people are sensitive to it or don't. If you don't like the smell, you know, if you've got a midwife and you're using tons of Clary Sage and she either gets influenced by it to the fact that it makes her feel a bit woozy, or she can't stand the smell of it, or she feels uncomfortable with it for any reason, then it's not a good idea to use that, because she's the person keeping you safe there. But if the others in the room are maybe a bit jittery or anxious or irritable, then you can use a little bit of magic, and the diffusers are great here. And you can use an aromatherapy diffuser to change the whole atmosphere in the room. And once that supportive atmosphere comes in the room, then the woman really can use her, you know, feel safe. You know, a woman's got to feel safe when she's in labour. And once that sort of safety level comes there, then that supports her own mechanism to kick in and to give birth easily, as you know, rather than having some sort of irritable and horrible atmosphere around her. And then, you know, birth professionals will come in and they'll go, oh, it's lovely in here. And then they'll sort of sit down, have a chat, and I've seen it happen several times, and we've had lots of stories like that from midwives saying consultants that normally wouldn't give you the time of day will come in and say, these are great, and sitting down and saying, oh, I'll have to get one of these. And so it just sort of, and if you've been using the diffuser a bit at home before you're in labour, then it makes that homely space. It makes it your space as well. It's such a good, simple thing to use.
Absolutely. So let's get into a little bit of the how do we use it. So how would women go about using aromatherapy during childbirth? I know you've got lots of exciting things over there to show us.
Okay. Well, to begin with, the first and easiest thing to do is to just use a little bit of a cotton. Now, let's do it this way. This is a little bit of cotton wool pad. Now, when my daughter was in labour and I was there, she was feeling nauseous a lot of the time, and so I got a cotton wool pad, and I checked out whether she preferred peppermint or spearmint, or because when you're nauseous, you know what smells you like. So always, if you're using aromatherapy, you've got to check in to see whether the woman likes that smell, because if she doesn't like that smell, it's just simply not going to work. She's just wanting to, you know, you just want it to go away, don't you? So cotton wool's great. You're not putting it on the wrist or the hand. I mean, it's safer because it's less likely to be irritant or have any sort of detrimental effects. So when you're in labour, the last thing you want is to have any sort of detrimental effects from
Absolutely.
So you've got to be working really safely. So don't start tipping tons of essential oil directly on your belly, because it's not a good idea. So I'm just going to put 1 drop of peppermint on this cotton wool. That's so easy, and your birth partner can help you do this. In fact, it's a great job for the birth partner if you chat with each other beforehand and get your birth partner prepared with, okay, if I need this, here's all the business. And it means that you're working together, and the birth partner feels like they're part of, you know, they're being supportive and part of it. And so that's really nice. So my daughter, she had this, and I passed it over to her. And she smelt it, and she just would not let go of this the whole time. Well, actually, what she did was she had a little nest, because she laboured through the night. She had a little nest, and she'd clamber into the nest at the end of every surge, and she'd like sort of feel around. We had candles on. She was at home, and she'd find this bit of cotton wool, and she just hold it close to her nose, and it was part of her ritual. Like each time she finished the surge, she'd go back, get herself comfortable, bring it close to her nose, and it was just lovely. It was just really lovely watching her do that. And then she'd put it down and then get back into work when she needed to, and then come back to it. And during the night, it just started getting more and more grotty looking. Because she was like sort of like this all the time. I was saying, do you want a new one of those, Tan? And she was going, no, this one's absolutely fine. But I managed to change it for her after a bit.
You prize away her comforter.
Yeah. Now it's quite strong peppermint, and it's got menthol in it. It's got it's high proportion of menthol. So make sure when baby's born, it's not too near baby's face. Just put it directly in a bin or a plastic bag once you've finished with it, and close it up, because babies can gag a bit from it, you know. So just be careful with it. If you prefer the spearmint, it's actually got less menthol in it, so it is a safer one to use. But you know, if you've got it up near your face, that's really lovely. Yeah, it's
and I guess
really
also washing your hands. At some point, I have definitely fallen victim to peppermint on my finger. Rub your eye.
Yeah, you don't want to rub your eye. No, it's great for headaches as well. It's great if you're getting a headache. It will really clear your head as well. Having a little smell like that.
I love those ones. I'm definitely more of a spearmint fan. Spearmint's just, to me, I think of spearmint as chewing gum.
Yes, it is.
A bit more intense. So for some reason, the spearmint is like a bit more kind of free for me than the peppermint.
Well, I think so too. I think it's gentler. But Jude definitely my partner Jude, she definitely prefers the peppermint, and I definitely prefer the spearmint, and so we have a little voting class to see who likes which one and who wins. It's always a good laugh. Yeah.
So in addition to putting it on a cloth and kind of and smelling it, what other kind of things can you do with aromatherapy during childbirth?
Okay, so the diffuser that we were talking about, I wouldn't use more than 6 drops in the diffuser. As you're going through childbirth, you just want to be super safe. And so with the diffuser, you put 6 drops, like you fill up your bowl. Probably most people have seen them now, but you've got a bowl there, and rather than it getting heated up,
I've got one here.
You've got a beautiful one. This one's really good in hospital, actually, and for professionals to use because it's really easy to clean. Oops.
Absolutely.
Going opposite.
They're fab, aren't they?
So, yeah, and you fill up the chamber. They're much safer than the candle ones because you haven't got a candle, so can't get knocked over. No one can get burnt with it. You put water in up to the line, and if you haven't got enough water in there, it'll just go off by itself. So that means that you don't forget about it, like with those old candle burners. I mean, people have still got them; they're still lovely. But if you haven't got a chamber that's got enough water in there and the nightlight's still burning, it will actually burn the essential oils at the end. You know, if you run dry, and that's really chemically not good in there. Yeah, it's not good, and it's just
it leaves
disgusting
a horrible
smell.
sticky residue in the bottom of the thing as well. I've definitely been caught out. And if people don't have a diffuser like that, one of the things that I've recommended, and maybe you can tell me if this is a good thing, is just to get a little bowl of water and put a few drops into that and have it close to a radiator if possible.
Yeah, it's a really good
somewhere
idea.
that they can still get that smell wafting. So it's not necessarily automatically coming out to an extent, but if people are walking past it, it will still get wafted back into the room.
So you then put your number of drops that you want or something. So lavender's really great at the beginning of labour. There are no essential oils that have been proved to increase the speed of labour, but we've heard a lot of interesting information back from people that have used them. So there's no studies, there's no clinical studies at all, but we've had a survey up for Clary Sage, and Clary Sage is reputed to help increase surges. And so this survey has been for anyone that has experienced Clary Sage during labour. So it could be the woman in childbirth, it could be anyone else observing a woman giving birth with Clary Sage.
I guess what's interesting there as well is this, as we touched on earlier, although the specific essential oils might have a specific kind of response, trigger a specific response within the nervous system, it's also so much to do with how the person associates that smell. So even if something is automatically doing that, but they associate that smell with something negative, then it's not going to have the same emotional response for them. So it's not going to help them to relax or feel safer or to get more of the love and the oxytocin flowing. It's almost just going to make them shut down a little bit. So that's a really interesting trying to balance out those two comparisons as well, isn't it?
Yeah, because I work for
in the body, but how it works in their mind.
Yeah, I worked for the hospice for several years, and they were saying use unusual essential oils when you're working in the hospice, because because I was working with those with life-threatening illnesses, and also with their carers as well, and you didn't want to have something that was going to be regularly in their life to that may sort of trigger grief, the carers. So if one of the essential oils has got a good association with you, maybe it's got a really lovely memory, then that one's a really nice one to have. So with Clary Sage, with our survey, we've had lots of positive comments about it being really supportive to the labour, to women that are really flagging, that they've been working really hard and they've got to a certain stage and they're exhausted, and using Clary Sage, and even a few comments where they were saying that it help them pause to rest for half an hour, and then wake up, and then they were just in full flow. So the Clary Sage appeared, I mean, I can't say that it definitely did, because it's not a clinical, we're not working clinically here, but from this information, several people were saying that it appeared that it was really supportive, and also just helping increase those surges as well. So you could start off using lavender at the beginning of the labour, because that's meant to be a little bit supportive. It cleans the room, it cleans the space. All of the droplets coming out of this diffuser will land on surfaces, and it's antimicrobial. You know, in this day and age, we just want to make sure we've got that clean space, but it's also gives that whole calmness, that whole readiness, that feeling of refreshment, of balance, everything that you want to make that space feel super safe. And then you can use this diffuser for about half an hour to an hour. I've had conversations with Robert Tisserand. Jude and I were a little worried about it, because other people were saying that maybe it's not safe to use in the birthing room because it influences lots of people. But we think that influence is safe as long as you have consent, and that it's within a small space, and it's not within a space where women that aren't at term can smell those essential oils, that if you're going to be using one that potentially could encourage you to go into labour. So you know, make sure you're safe with them. Use 6 drops. Now, the other thing with the diffusers that conversation with Robert Tisserand was really useful for with us was that he was saying that after about an hour, therapeutically, the essential oils stop working. So even if you were using a diffuser for a cold, say you had eucalyptus on it for a cold, after an hour your body just gets habitualized to it, and you don't actually respond. So even on something a physical response, the response becomes less. And so what we're suggesting with the diffuser, so it doesn't overwhelm anyone in the room as well, that you pulse the diffuser. Now, you can't get diffusers that pulse within half an hour to an hour yet. I've been keeping an eye out. You get ones that pulse sort of every 30 seconds or a minute or so, and that's hardly worth the pulse. I mean, I'm afraid it doesn't really work. So you need someone in that space that is thinking about turning this diffuser on and off. And a good thing about doing that as well is, so you have your diffuser on, you've got it on for half an hour at the beginning of the labour, you turn it off, and then you have to leave it off for the same amount of time that it's been on. So if you've had it on for about an hour, you turn it off for an hour. Now, at that point, labour's an ever-changing thing, isn't it? And at that point, you might not need it. And although aromatherapy is really wonderful during labour, it is an intervention, you know. And so what we need to think about as well is, how's mum labouring? How's she doing? You know, is she just going fine? Is she working well? Is she does she need any support at this point, or do we trust her? Do we trust her body in what it's doing? And she could be fine. And actually, you might set yourself up with lots of lovely aromatherapy stuff and not even use it. But that's brilliant. You know, I'm really happy if it works that way. But at some points, we may just need to give her a little bit of push, or change the atmosphere, or help support her so that she has a bit more energy, or allows herself to relax.
Yeah. I think what's so lovely there, and we've kind of said it, but I'll just explicitly say it as well, is bringing the essential oil into the mix of what's in the room at that time. Is also showing tender love and care, which again, in addition to the amazing, you know, the potency of the oils that you're using, for somebody to see that they're being supported and to feel that love coming in, is just a huge thing. I remember when I was little, if I used to get quite a lot of mumps and kind of swollen glands, and my mum would bring an oil burner in with lavender, and as soon as she came in, you were just like, oh, you just instantly feel better, because somebody has reached out and not just touched your nose and your olfactory system, but touched your heart.
Yes.
So that's an important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and love is really important, isn't it, in the birthing space? And
absolutely.
And also, I just love the fact that it supports the people that are birth partners as well, that they go into that birthing room and they have that sense of confidence that they can do something to, like if their partners or their friend is struggling, rather than, holding hands really great, but this is like sort of, and the next step up is to just prepare something really lovely to change that space. And
it's like a little sprinkle of magic, a little gift. I remember being
absolutely, it's really magical.
In Inverness and Edinburgh one day, and I had a little bottle of mandarin oil with me. I find mandarin really uplifting, but also relaxing. And I had just a few drops in a handkerchief, and the lady next to me was, "I can smell something lovely." And then she started chatting away. And when she went to get off the bus, I just took a clean tissue out, put a couple of drops on, and said, "There you go. Go and have one of those." And she was like, "Oh, thank you." I could see her off the bus.
Oh, how lovely of you.
Just wafting it.
Mandarin's
little things.
That's in our kit too, mandarin. And it's really gentle oil. It's really lovely. It's good for nausea too. So you don't have to go down, if you can't stand mint and you feel a bit nauseous in labour, then mandarin is not only refreshing and uplifting, it's also relaxing as well, and it's got a little bit of a hypnotic feel to it. And so if you're sort of hanging on in there, trying to sort of hanging on by your fingernails, sort of trying to keep everything together, and you just need to sort of chill out and feel your mood uplifting a little bit, it's really lovely. And it's great if kids are at the birth as well. It's a beautiful one, or around kids. It's lovely and safe, and it can just really change that atmosphere. I love mandarin. I love how simple it is. It's chemically very simple as well in comparison to some of the other essential oils, and so that simplicity really works well all round. And I think what you've been sort of reflecting back at me as well is that how holistic aromatherapy is, that you're working on lots of different levels. Like some people say, oh, it's just a placebo effect, you like a smell and so it makes you feel better. And what's wrong with that? If you enjoy that smell and it feels good in that space, then that's really brilliant. But also it's not just that. There's all those other different levels. It works on you physically, it works on you mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's really beautiful to work with. Frankincense is a good one for me to talk about. That's another one in our kit. And that one's very useful if it doesn't quite go how you think it's going to go, and you got to maybe change your plan, and it's a bit scary for you, and you weren't prepared for it. And frankincense, again, simply just on a little bit of cotton wool means that if you've got to go into hospital or go and have cesarean or something, that can, even with a bit of micropore, just be taped onto your clothing so that it goes wherever you are. And frankincense is an amazing essential oil. It's been used in ceremony for thousands of years.
I think I've
a nice whiff of it
frankincense here as well. I think one of the things that most people probably associate frankincense with Christmas, and at Christmas I always have frankincense and mandarin kind of diffused in the house.
Yeah, lovely combination.
The earthiness of it, because it really does help you to, well, for me personally, it helps me to feel more grounded, but it also helps me to feel surrounded by that love and surrounded by family, because that's what Christmas is. And if Christmas isn't a metaphor for when all your plans change, I don't know what is. You can never plan your Christmas exactly, can you?
Yeah,
so that's an easy way to think of it too. So mandarin, frankincense, lavender, clary sage.
Frankincense is really good for the breath as well. So if you're hyperventilating, or so it deepens the breath. That's why it's being used in ceremony and meditation, is it has this ability to go allow your lungs to relax and deepen and bring in that breath, which is all important. And as soon as you breathe well, then you change the way you're thinking. If you're hyperventilating and scared, you're breathing up here, and then as soon as that breath goes deep and you've got that lovely calming earthy sensation, it's a tree, frankincense tree, and the way that they get the essential oils is by cutting the bark so that the tree bleeds a little bit, and that dries in the sunshine and becomes resin tears. And these tears then get distilled, and so it's a wound healer. Yes. So it's an emotional wound healer, and it's a physical wound healer as well. And it grows in very, very dry places, and so it helps with moisture. This is aside from childbirth. I use it in any preparations for the skin where you need to hydrate. So.
Talking about the power to change your state and to transform how you're feeling, you have just transported me back to all of the temples and the Buddhist center in Nepal, where I was 10 months, and it was just that, used to walk into clouds of incense, but resin and just this deep smells. You couldn't help but stop. In fact, you were stopped. It's not that you stopped, you were stopped. By these amazing, not just the smell, but as you say, it's the presence that came with the smell, that absolute place of reverence. And I think if there isn't reverence in childbirth, then where is the reverence?
Well, it's incarnation, isn't it? It's seeing some of this stuff on TV of women giving birth where there isn't any of this aspect, frightens me somehow. It's like it's almost like it's not a human being born. It's just a process that's happening, and it's really important that there is safety in that process. But I think in the UK that there's a real change, that midwives really are focusing more on the holistic aspect of birth, that midwives have always known that it's really important, the emotional aspect of it. And when we teach midwives, we're taking these into your trusts, and so anyone that is deciding to go into hospital or is having a home birth, ask the midwives if they do use aromatherapy, and they can give you some tips on how to massage and different things that they can use, and you can work alongside the midwives there. And what they're so delighted with is that they have extra tools to work with the emotions. Because midwives haven't been given that many tools to work with the emotions of childbirth when they're trained. They're not taught how to massage and to touch women. And I think I just love it. We teach 30 midwives in a trust, and then you just feel this whole change in that whole area. All those midwives using aromatherapy, influencing so many women, each of those midwives, influencing so many babies' births to be more gentle, less intervention. It's just lovely work to be done, and this whole sense of the change that's happening now is really beautiful, that we've got both aspects happening, and also just that whole encouragement of allowing women to have home births. I mean, I don't know what it's like up in your area now, but it's just so different for women now. It's great.
One of the things that I find in the early days when I was teaching hypnobirthing is really trying to bring home to couples the importance of connection, between them and the baby, between them and the caregivers in the room, and not to feel like it's the woman, the man or the birthing partner not knowing what to do, and then the midwives or the caregivers kind of around in the background. And I teach soothing strokes, light touch massage within the hypnobirthing. But often when we sit down and I'll say, okay, so I'll demonstrate what to do, and then the birthing partner, well, actually the mums tend to do it on the birth partner first, so the birth partner
Yes.
can feel how lovely this is, and then they recognize.
It's really, really important that I think that they get the experience.
Absolutely, because
as well.
then they recognize the significance and the state change that happens when they're able to do that. But one of the things I found early on was that quite often people would just start doing it like it was just 3 of these, 2 of these, and you really have to come back and say, pause just for a moment, just rest your hands almost like you were touching a cobweb, so they're so light, they're just barely touching, and breathe, tune into the breath of the person that you're about to connect with, rather than just, oh, here they are, a back massage will help. And so
it's very perfunctory, isn't it? And it's also, there's also fear there, isn't, with people that aren't used to massage, they often massage far too quickly. Because they sort of want to get it over and done with for a start, or they're just not used to that fact. And to work with your breath, like when you're doing those strokes, that the person who's the masseur slows down their breathing naturally. Like whenever I go in for a massage, the same as what you're saying is, I'll make sure I center myself and pause every single time and bring myself right into the room. And it doesn't matter what's happening in the rest of your life. It's also a really lovely pause for the masseur as well, because you've just suddenly become really, really present. And I think that's the key, is when you're massaging or working with this stuff, that it brings you present. And once you're present, then anything can happen. It's sort of like, that's when it switches into something else. And when you feel calm, when you're helping someone else, they'll pick up on that. And it's just catching. It's just like anything. It's catching. If you've got someone close to your space and they feel really, really calm. And so then you start the massage, and then you start it really slowly and gently. And the most important thing about massage is about receiving information as well as giving a massage. It's not just about giving a massage. So there's that free flow of information. You look for tightness in the woman, tight jaw, tight hands, frowning, and just a simple touch on a frowning forehead can just, oh yeah, I remember. Shoulders up by the ears. Just put your hands on the shoulders, let them drop. It's just simple. It doesn't have to be complicated.
I think I'm spoiled now. We have a massage couch set up at home all the time. I trained in massage and reflexology when I was in my 20s, so I've never really used them at a professional level. It was always just something we loved to do. And so my mum and I'll swap a massage, and I've got my husband into giving me a massage now as well. I'm like, you can just practice.
I've got one in my room. I've got a massage chair.
A little bit spoiled at home. So Lindsay,
sorry.
We've had an amazing chat. What if there was one thing that you wanted pregnant women to take away from this right now? What would it be?
I think that with all of this stuff, just let it flow naturally. Trust in your body. Just really, really trust. If you really, really want one of these aromas, make sure that you can have it. But I think just know that women have been giving birth for thousands and thousands of years. The human race is still here. Before any technology, before any of this. And I know it's sort of slightly aside from the aromatherapy, but just trust in yourself. And whatever happens, it's perfect. You can have lots of lovely plans, lots of ideas, but whatever happens, it's perfect. And if you've prepared well, then that's all you can do. And that baby is the one that's being incarnated, and it's part of that baby's journey as well. And you're there to really support that as much as you can. But whatever happens, don't give yourself a hard time, please. And you can use the essential oils afterwards as well. Use that lavender afterwards.
Exactly. So there's and even the power of the imagination is so strong that if heaven forbid you forgot to take your oil with you, imagine take your hand, imagine you're breathing in the lavender, imagine you're breathing in the Clary Sage.
People who have epilepsy sometimes use ylang ylang to ward off it, and they can, if they haven't got any, they can imagine it, and it will also help as well. Also, I'd just like to say that our course, although it's an online course, and although it is specifically for birth workers, if someone who isn't a birth worker would really like to do it, then we're really happy for anyone to take our course. And there may be a few things that you don't need, but it's really lovely. And if you're very interested and want to work with it, we're there. And you'll get contact with me and with Jude, my midwife.
And everybody needs a friend like Jude, as you said at the beginning. Jude was there going, "Come on, we want to do this."
Yes, yeah.
Everyone needs a friend like Jude.
Yeah.
Lindsay, one other thing that's just occurred to me, I know there's a lot of different brands of essential oils out there.
Oh, yes.
I've got a couple here. These just happen to be the ones I had. I know from having a friend who's an aromatherapist that one of the things that's quite important is that your bottle is a coloured bottle so that it protects what's in there.
Oh, do you want me to go through that a little bit?
But but I think mainly other than that, you can buy an oil that's maybe, well, if you go on to some online shops, you can buy them for like £2. The kind of standard price in your Boots or any of those kind of shops is more like £6 to £10. But I also know of some essential oils that are the same oil, but might be 25, 35, £40 for no more milliliters, the same amount, just a different kind of potency. Or how do people choose? How does the average woman off the street just safely know this is the right one to get?
Okay, so make sure that it's got a Latin name on it. So look up what it is if you can. If you can't, I've got here my frankincense, and it's got I'm going silent. It's Boswellia carteri anyway. Oh, no, I can't do it. It's the other Boswellia carteri. Yeah. So you know that it's coming from a plant for a start.
Yes, not just a synthetic retained one.
Yeah, because the synthetic ones come from the petroleum industry, and they're not only not therapeutic, but they also can do you harms. And especially if you're pregnant and carrying a baby, then you don't want to have any of those. I always go for organic essential oils because the organic growers take a lot more care with the quality of their oils. They're generally, as a generalization, don't go for super cheap ones. They're probably bought in from the fragrance industry, where it's just the smell that's important, and there'll maybe a soup from lots of different countries of different essential, different lavenders from all over the world, just sort of plonked in there. It may have gone through a big chain of people to get to you, which means the essential oils are older. If they're old, they can be more irritant and they're less therapeutic. So I think make sure that just buy small bottles so that you can get fresh bottles as well. That's really important. What else do I need to say? And once you've found, there's some good people in this country that sell them. Just go online. There's some bigger names, but just that, I think that organic things means that it's of good quality. The other thing is, make sure it says it's 100% or pure essential oil, so that they haven't put anything in to dilute it at all, because then it's not going to be working so well, and it'll go off quicker as well.
That's a really important point. I remember I drink a lot of herbal tea and hot water and lemon. And at one point we had bought this new brand of tea that was spearmint and something else. And I'd been drinking a couple of cups of this a day for a few days, and I kept getting a headache. And I was thinking, I don't get headaches. I've not, in my entire life, I have maybe had 10 headaches. I just do not get them. And I went back and I was like, the only thing that's different has been this tea. And I looked more closely at the tea, and it was spearmint flavoring. There was nothing in there that was the original spearmint. It was just purely synthetic. And I just had to throw the whole lot in the bin, because I knew that was what was giving me the headache. So really important.
Also, I think the other thing is, people quite often have essential oils knocking around the house that someone gave them as a present, and they didn't really know what to do with it sort of years ago. Really, mandarin and the citrus oils you shouldn't keep for more than a year, and other ones 2 years plus. I think that's the easiest way to talk about it. So some of them are 4 years, but just smell them. And, with your citrus oils, if they start smelling a bit flat, just use them to clean the toilet or the drains or something, so don't throw them away. But don't put them on your skin, because particularly the citrus oils can irritate you much more. If you're getting an irritable response to those essential oils, it's quite often because they've oxidized. And oxidization can come from heat, so don't store them over your radiators. Light, so don't put them on your window ledges in your bathroom over your radiators. And also oxygen as well. So lids on as soon as you possibly can, and buy little 5 ml bottles like these. And just once you found a good supplier, stick to them as well.
Lovely.
We do sell all our little kits. We've got nice little kits. I'll do a little bit of a
fab.
We've got nice little kits, and we've also got these nice little kits for one single birth as well, so that I've got all the essential oils in a little pack here. So I've got
so useful,
mandarin, clary sage, lavender, frankincense, spearmint, and peppermint in
beautiful
little pack. So so it doesn't cost so much. So it's a bit like those homeopathic kits you can get for birth and stuff.
I always have some kind of bottle of oil in a handbag or in a pocket somewhere, because I just find it so useful when I'm out and about. If I feel a bit overwhelmed by anything that's out there, I'm just like, I have to have a little sniff.
Yes, have a little waft
somewhere in the corner. It's like a huge, huge, huge difference. Lindsay, it has been fabulous to talk to you this morning. Thank you
lovely
so
to talk
much.
to you too.
I think we could literally just go on forever, couldn't we?
Oh no, we could. So we better shut up.
There's so much to share, but I think that's been really, really, really valuable for people. And I'm pretty sure that I would love to talk to you again at some point in the future and share a bit more. Lovely. If you would love to come back and have us. And when I share this, obviously I'll tag your Facebook page so people can come and find you underneath.
And Instagram, if possible. Instagram's doing well at the moment. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, you can do through our website. So that's just simply Aromatherapy for Childbirth.